thank you for being here. Today we are on step number 6, and we're going to evaluate the people that have a pretty strong presence in our life so that we understand a little bit more about ourselves. We've talked about our past, clearing our space out, and now it's time to evaluate what it is that we're doing on a consistent basis day to day. So take 3 people in your lives, one from the category of your family, a person that you're close to within your family, a friend that you're fairly close to, and a person at work that you're close to. And by close to, I mean that you communicate quite a bit and that you care about them as an individual and not somebody that you have to interact with because that you work with them or because they're in your family, but people who you choose to spend time with. And we want to evaluate the people that we're choosing to spend our time with on the basis of what is the meaningfulness of the conversations that we're having and why they are so important to us. We don't know why we're doing things until we look at them and evaluate them. So that's what we're going to do today, is evaluate the things and the people that are taking up so much of our life. We work for 8+ hours a day, 5 days a week. We're actually spending a lot more time thinking about work than that. And then the friends and the family take up our other time. And they're usually people that we're choosing to be around. And you are choosing to be at your job. If you really didn't like it, you could change it. So these are things that we are choosing to do. And it's time to reevaluate and to figure out, why are we choosing them? So pick those 3 people. You don't have to write their names down. These are just things for you. But what I did was, we're going to base the value that they're providing to us off of 3 different categories. Conversation, what is it that we are talking about with these people? Emotion, how do we feel after we communicate with them? And 3, what are the goals of these people? Not necessarily with the conversation in and of itself, but what are the goals that each individual has? And can we even break down the people who we interact with, their goals and what they want from life? So for conversations, a lot of the times they are going to be around the future or the past. Maybe it's around other people. Maybe it's about ideas or world events. It could be about relationships that you're both in, the desires that you have for life, the places you want to travel, the things that you're working towards. It might be those goals that are coming up in your conversations. You might be talking about work all the time, or talking about the people who are in your life and you just have to deal with them. So the complaining and the difficulties, these might be things that are all characterized in those conversations. Now for me, the family member that I picked, a lot of the stuff that we talk about is world events and work and the sort of family business that we're building together. The friend that I picked for this, a lot of the things we talk about is relationships or work or complaining about things. And the person from work that I picked, a lot of the things that we talk about is family, complaining about things that are happening at work, and then it's usually just like a one-sided sharing, because I don't really care to offer that much information to people that I don't know that well. Now you might know the person that you work with pretty well, but see where you're putting up boundaries within those conversations as well. What are you choosing to share with people, and what aren't you choosing to share with you? Because guess what? We're going to evaluate these 3 people, and then we're going to do the same evaluation on ourselves. Now, emotions. How do you feel after talking to people? To these people specifically. Are you excited about life or the world after it? Or are you annoyed with everything and this person and all the things around you? How do you feel after? And are these the feelings that you want to prioritize feeling? When this person is mean or annoyed or whatever, how do these conversations go? What do you feel after? Are you rejuvenated? Do you feel like that was a good conversation, like you can go and do other things? Or do you feel like you have to sit there and just feel drained because this person has just taken so much out of you, or what you're talking about is difficult? how do you feel? What are those emotions that are coming up? And actually put emotions like you feel excited or sad or motivated or interested in life or disassociated or like you need to repower. Like, how are you actually feeling after these conversations? And usually the people that we choose to talk to the most are going to give us the same types of feelings or similar types of feelings. So what feelings are you chasing in these relationships that you're having? For me, for the family aspect, it was a lot of laughing and joy and excitement, and there's motivation as well if the conversation shifts to that. And sometimes it's nostalgia, like the good old days. But it's usually lighter. I tried to make it lighter, but sometimes it can be very difficult because this is the person that knows me fairly well and the things that I've been through. So sometimes those come up, but it's fallen off a lot recently, and I just rather focus on easier things to talk about. With my friends, sometimes I feel like the conversation went on for far too long and that I should have said, I have to go and go do something else. But I always feel like I have to answer the call when people call or to respond fairly quickly, and one of my friends took a very long time to respond in comparison to how quickly I will respond to her. So I was like, you know what? This is giving me a brand new perspective. Like, why am I so available for the people that I ostensibly care about, but when they're busy or they're caught up in something, they don't care if they answer me or not. So why am I offering so much to somebody who's not reciprocating it? And it was a very good point to me to reevaluate and be like, I don't want to feel like this. And then for the work friend, it is pretty neutral and detached. I'll listen to their problems, but I don't feel super involved with them, which is a good place to be at because the people that you work with aren't necessarily going to be the long-term friends that you build these relationships with, but they might be. But it is a good place to be at where you can distance yourself from other people's problems, listen to them, offer that time to listen, but it's not your responsibility to fix. So that is a pretty important place to get to, and that was a good kind of reorientation for that. So that was good. Now goals. Goals was an interesting one because I'm like, what are the goals of these people? And I had to think about it for a second, which isn't that funny? Like, we are all living this life hopefully in service of something or towards something. And if we can't like immediately pick that out for other people, like, what is it that we're talking about? Is it even useful? It's a good question. But for the family member, it is building the real estate business that we have together and really focusing on that and trying to step in and make that happen and really build on it as much as we can. So those are the biggest goals. But other ones I can't really figure out. I think it's also has to do with kind of creating more boundaries and having more time for things. That is what that person would probably say. For my friend, I think for her, it's getting a boyfriend. I don't know. I really can't tell, which is not great. So that's a pretty good eye-opener that I cannot dictate what this person wants from life. And then the person from work, raising their child and making more money because this is a good paying job for them. So that is kind of what I figured out. But for myself, so that was really good to just kind of see like, what is the value of the conversations that I'm having? How am I spending my actual currency of life? And if I am not getting anything out of it, it doesn't mean that I need to throw the person out, but it just means I need to reorient and reevaluate what it is that I'm getting out of this, and is it what I want? Do I want to feel annoyed or like I don't know what the point of this is? Is that building me into a person that I want to be? Is that getting me closer to where I want to go? Only I can answer that. But it was like a really good way to point out to myself like what's going on. So for me, conversations that I choose to have or like what I choose to add to conversations is usually oriented around just having fun and laughing, not always being super serious, depends on who the person is, and if I do share, it's something that I've learned or that I've wanted to work on, or things like I've watched or things that I've enjoyed, but I really try to stay away from complaining about the past anymore, talking about things that I've been through, experiences that aren't super relevant to that exact conversation. I don't really like offering examples anymore. I just like to be present more, because it just does not matter why I went through the things that I did. I can offer the lessons that I've learned or orient to the conversation, but outside of that, people really don't need to know. And that's an important thing, is unless you offer something to the conversation, people won't know about it. And if there is something that you've been through or something that you did that you don't want others to know, they're not going to know unless you tell them. So if this isn't something that you want to speak on, don't bring it into evidence. If it doesn't exist, they don't know about it. And if you had a decision that you made or a mistake that you've done and nobody else knows about it, the only way they're going to know about it is if you offer that information. So don't give more information than you need, and that is really something that I've been trying to focus on these past 6 months since everything has shifted in my life. It's like, people just don't need to know about my life. Everything is on a need-to-know basis, and nobody needs to know about you other than the things that you are choosing to share. And the stories that I have value, and people don't need to know them unless I have decided that they should have access to it. When you are buying a subscription or when you want access to something, you usually have to pay for it. You have to find value in it and give up an exchange for it. So if you are freely offering everything that you've been through and people aren't giving you anything in return, you're not getting anything out of it, it is just a lack of value exchange, and people don't need to know more than you decide that they should. So keep it behind that paywall, and when somebody earns access to it, you can give it to them, and if they haven't, then they shouldn't get it. If Netflix is $20 a month and you can't pay the $20, Netflix isn't just going to give you access to their subscription. You have to pay for it. So understand the value of your stories and what you're going through, and keep it closer to you. And when somebody can afford that story because they've given you time and attention and the respect, and they're responding in a timely manner, and they care, and they're asking questions back, then you can share. But until they're reaching that minimum level payment, they don't get access. And if you stop giving that, if you stop paying Netflix's subscription, you stop getting access to it immediately. So if somebody is disrespecting you, if they're not answering, if they don't really care what you're going through, that subscription and access to your life ends immediately. So end it as soon as possible. So that's kind of like how I've been trying to structure my conversations and just how I interact with people. People don't need to know about my life. If enough time passes and I see a reciprocal relationship, then you can get access. But until then, you don't need to know. Emotions. When I have conversations, I try to keep it lighthearted. I try to be excited or joyful or laughing or something. Just try to keep it light and try to keep it moving. If I do have a harder conversation with someone, I focus it explicitly on that, and we're gonna step into this emotion together and then also step out of it and transition in and out of that emotion pretty quickly. You have to process your own emotions. You have to be the one to reevaluate what it is that you've gone through, what it means to you, and how you're dealing with it. Sharing with every person you know isn't going to help you, and you're just going to think more about how you shared versus what you're going through. So keep it lighthearted as much as possible and just keep it moving, keep it pushing. Most people don't want to be in conversations that they're in, and if you are around those people, don't share too much. It's not worth it. And the emotions that you're portraying to the world is usually what you're feeling on your own. So when I am on my own, I try to do things that excite me or that I have fun with. So keep doing that. And goals that I have include reading a book a week. This has been a goal since 2020. I'm not super successful at it all the time, but it is something that keeps me going. Saving money and only buying the things that I want to experience and that are actually bringing me joy, and not joy for others necessarily. If I'm not excited about this, or if I am excited, I want to spend my money on it, and otherwise I want to keep the money to myself so that I can set myself up to be able to make more decisions, and have a richer, freer life from the oppression of everybody else. Experiences and travel, that's where I want all that money to be going to. So instead of buying gifts for every single person, I want it to be spent on me. And being more physical, doing ballet, getting outside more, and doing stuff for me in that capacity. So I will leave it at that. Those are just how I looked at it. It was really good for me to kind of see, like, what is it that I spend my time on, and how am I portraying myself to the world? We can't change who we are or change what we're doing until we know what it is that we're doing. So hopefully evaluating the people that you're the closest to will give you some kind of insight as to why you're still where you are, what these people mean to you, what you're getting out of it. And if it's nothing, if it's not enough, then maybe it's time to reduce your time with those people and reevaluate what it is that you want to be. What kind of person do you want to be to yourself and to the world around you? I can't wait to see you in the next step, but until then, I hope you have an amazing week.